All right, good morning, biology class. Mr. Adair here, and I'm going to go through some information that's going to be very important for you to complete the assignment for today. And one of the other main things we need to learn about for our test, which will be early next week before winter break. Okay, last week we learned about how we share breath with the trees. We know that plants do photosynthesis, and we also know that plants do cellular respiration. In addition, we know that animals do cellular respiration as well. Cellular respiration is meant to make ATP. As you can see here on the screen, cellular respiration makes ATP by breaking down oxygen and glucose, makes ATP, and then the products are carbon dioxide and water. We learned about that with Share Your Breath with the Tree. Hopefully that's a little bit of quick review. But today I want to talk about two other processes of cellular respiration. So cellular respiration this is not the only way cellular respiration is done. There's another way. Before I get into that though, remember that where does cellular respiration take place? In the mitochondria. Why is it important? It makes ATP molecules. When does it happen? It happens all the time. How does it happen? This is the chemical reaction for how it happens. And those are kind of the main points. Okay, though. Now, some new information for you. There is another type of cellular respiration. It is called anaerobic cellular respiration without oxygen present. So this is where we can make ATP molecules without oxygen. Real quick, going back. The first part that did require oxygen is aerobic cellular respiration. One way you can memorize that is that think about aerobics, doing jumping jacks and doing spin classes. You're doing aerobics to work out. You need a lot of oxygen to do aerobics. Anaerobic, no oxygen is available. So there are two types of anaerobic cellular respiration that I want you to know about. Again, why do some organisms, including humans even, and I'll get into that, do anaerobic respiration? The point is to make ATP. Our cells still need ATP to do the cellular processes like cell division and everything like that. The first type of anaerobic respiration I want to talk about is alcoholic fermentation. So this is where some organisms like yeast, which is a fungus, can make ATP for itself by eating glucose, breaking down glucose, making ATP in the process, and the products, the results are carbon dioxide and ethanol. And ethanol is a type of alcohol, okay? And carbon dioxide is a gas, and it's a gas that makes bubbles. So think about this, you're not old enough to drink beer, but maybe you've seen your parents drink beer, and it is carbonated, right? It has bubbles in it. That's because when that beer was made, the brewers put in yeast to break down sugar, and the result was carbon dioxide bubbles and alcohol, ethanol. Okay? So yeast can do this. We also can use alcoholic fermentation to make bread. Bread, you use dry yeast and you mix it with warm water if you've ever made it, and add flour to it, and the yeast will break down the flour, the glucose, make ATP for itself so it can function, and also make carbon dioxide, which makes the bread rise. The carbon dioxide gas makes the bread rise. And another product is alcohol. But why isn't bread have alcohol in it then, right? Well, most of that alcohol is burned off when it's baked, and through the process of baking, the alcohol doesn't stick around. All right, now another important type of anaerobic, no oxygen respiration is something called lactic acid fermentation. And your bodies do this, animals can do this, and other bacteria can do it too. I always remember my body would go into lactic acid fermentation to make ATP during when I ran track in high school, when I was doing major exercise. What happens is sometimes you don't have enough oxygen available. You're breathing in because you're doing intense exercise, and you don't have enough oxygen available to make as much ATP as you need. So your bodies can go into another type of respiration to make more ATP called lactic acid fermentation. We still break down glucose, but without any oxygen available, and we create carbon dioxide gas that we get rid of, and then lactic acid, which is just an acid that can stick around in your muscles. And I'd always know that I was going into lactic acid fermentation because I'd have a hard workout. I'd go home, drink water, eat dinner, and then I'd go to bed, and I noticed my legs would feel really tight. I would just want to stretch them out. It'd be really uncomfortable. And that's a sign that you have lactic acid built up in your muscles and your body's just kind of uncomfortable because of it. So it is another way to make ATP when there's not quite enough oxygen available. Bacterial cells can do this too. In fact, humans have figured out how to use bacterial cells to make food for ourselves by this process, lactic acid fermentation. We make yogurt and cheese this way, as well as kimchi, tempeh, miso, things like that. And yeah, that's the main deal. It really gets down to, and this is a little bit above what I want to talk about in this class, but glycolysis is making that ATP. It's the process of making ATP. And I'm not going to require that you guys know this. You'll learn more about this in AP biology next year. But here's some of the chemical process of actually that, and it gets much more complicated when you look at glycolysis and the molecules that are needed for that. But you just mainly need to know that cellular respiration makes ATP. With oxygen, we have aerobic cellular respiration. Without oxygen, we have fermentation, which is anaerobic cellular respiration. So we've learned about aerobic cellular respiration. That's what we learned about when we talked about we share breath with the trees. To make ATP energy for our cells, it needs oxygen. Now today, I taught you about anaerobic cellular respiration, which there are two types: alcoholic and lactic acid fermentation. All right, I will also be talking about this in class this week when you come to our Google Meet. And just please listen to this video very carefully. Your assignment for the week, let me go to that real quick, is to fill out the cell energy reporter chart and submit it. And here's the cell energy reporter chart. One moment as it loads. Here we go. So on the top it has photosynthesis, aerobic respiration, and anaerobic respiration. I want you to compare all of these three things. Like, what is it? So photosynthesis, you can explain what photosynthesis is. What I would say would be kind of like, well, photosynthesis is and you can go into more detail or less detail, it is a chemical process that takes the sun's energy, water, and carbon dioxide, and changes those things into glucose and oxygen. So it's a chemical reaction that takes place. It stores energy in the plant and for later use. All right, then who does it? Well, plants do photosynthesis. It happens in the chloroplast. Where does it happen? Chloroplast. Why does it happen? Well, it happens because that can be a pretty advanced question, but really just talk about what it's doing. It stores energy. Plants use that energy to make ATP when they do cellular respiration. And remember, animals use that energy when they eat the glucose that the plants make. So talk about that. It happens when there's sunlight available. Then talk about the chemical reaction and any other notes. And I'd like you to do that for not only photosynthesis, aerobic, and anaerobic. So you may need to go back and visit the notes and videos from last week. All right, thank you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.